Hi guys, it's me Vance. As you can see, the president is not here with me, so I will be reading Chapter 13 of The United States of Trump by Bill O'Reilly by myself. So here we go. Chapter 13, Trump Tower, Manhattan, April 30th, 1990. Donald Trump is getting an enormous return on his investment in Marla Maples. The news coverage of their affair and the pending divorce action with Ivana is now a national phenomenon, with comparisons to the scandalous actions of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton in the early 1960s. Trump and Maples have been an item for at least 2 years, but only recently has their relationship been made public. As one might expect, Ivana Trump is furious over the humiliation and the disruption to her life, not to mention their children's lives. Maples is a model who came to New York City from rural Georgia in 1985, hoping to act in a television soap opera. Problem was, she didn't have a specific job or the connections to get one. But now, she is a huge star in the tabloid world. Her interview with Diane Sawyer of ABC News garnered record ratings for her program just 11 days ago. The 26-year-old blonde met Donald Trump under hazy circumstances, the tabloids reporting a chance encounter on Madison Avenue. Few who know Donald Trump believe that scenario, but their introduction has never really been defined. What is factual is that the two developed a friendship that is now impacting the entire Trump world. With Donald Trump hoping to expand his brand in order to attract outside investment to his company, the attention he and Marla are receiving is a major plus in his eyes, and he will make a variety of public statements affirming that belief. In fact, the launch of the billion-dollar Taj Mahal casino in Atlantic City has generated tremendous publicity, mainly because of Trump's divorce action. On April 4th, he said this to the anchorman of the syndicated program Inside Edition, which was me. Unfortunately, the divorce created more of a hoopla for the building. It's not the greatest thing in the world, and I don't like capitalizing on a divorce because a divorce is a negative thing. What you had to explain to your children, I said, must have been very difficult. It is difficult, but we kept the children insulated. We keep them away from television, and they're young enough that, frankly, it works out pretty well. But you love all this media stuff, don't you? No, Donald Trump answered. But the press works to your advantage in the sense that you can use the press because you are famous, and you are a marketable commodity. Donald Trump paused for a second. I don't think I use the press. I think what happens is my buildings use the press. This building, the Taj Mahal, is very unique. The business of tabloid journalism requires an outlook on life that is callous, to say the least. It is impossible to know the true feelings of any human being, yet that is the root of all tabloid reporting. Heroes and villains, good and bad. The more sordid the story, the better. There are few journalistic rules. Anonymous sources, fine. Quotes taken as fact from people not on the scene, good. Denial of due process, all day long. In the tabloid world, which today is most of the American media, verifiable information doesn't matter. As the newsroom cliche goes, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Even though I first met Donald Trump during the Maples frenzy, I have no idea what really happened there. I also don't know anything about the Trump-Ivana marriage or what occurred in it. These are personal issues that historians are not qualified to judge. All I can do is report honestly about how things unfolded and the documented consequences that followed. With headline after headline about their affair dominating national news coverage, Donald Trump was becoming one of the most famous men in the world. No deal he ever made brought him close to this kind of attention. But he told me in Atlantic City that he was not happy with the news coverage of his personal life. You have a lot of very dishonest reporters, in my opinion. And I mean dishonest. I'm not talking about they are slightly off. I mean they are totally dishonest, because they'll report things knowing that they are wrong. I'm more of a victim than a beneficiary of the press, in all fairness. You cannot believe what you read. So, when you're out in Minnesota or Iowa, and you pick up some rag magazine or newspaper, and it says all sorts of things that have no basis in fact or truth, you just can't believe it. These are very dishonest people. So how do you think the public perceives you? I asked. I think the people and I have a pretty good understanding and a pretty good relationship. What about ego? Ego is an interesting thing. I have always been referred to as somebody with a big ego, but I've never met a successful person without a very large ego. And if you don't have a big ego, you're not going to be successful. It's as simple as that. Why couldn't you be humble and build the Taj Mahal? Because it doesn't work with a different personality. If I were humble, you wouldn't have a building like this. You'd have a plain Jane building that nobody would come and see. Today, Donald Trump says nearly the same things about the press. Back in the spring of 1990, his assessment of the media coverage about him was accurate. In researching this book, we found much of what was reported to be fallacious or taken grossly out of context. Publications such as Vanity Fair and The New Yorker were generally snide and condescending toward Trump. On the other side, People magazine was, at times, fawning. But behind the scenes, Donald Trump was actually orchestrating some of the press coverage about him. Quick documented story. In February 1990, the New York Post and the Daily News were brawling over the Trump-Maple situation, trying to outdo each other with lurid headlines and scoops. The Daily News was more sympathetic toward Ivana Trump, often hammering the Donald, as Ivana called him. The Post was more supportive of the developer, and he appreciated that. According to Jill Brooke, a TV reporter for the Post and a reliable correspondent, Donald Trump himself engineered the biggest headline of his career by phoning the Post editor-in-chief, Jerry Nachman, and telling him that Maples was gossiping to friends that Trump was responsible for the best sex she ever had. Nachman actually put Donald Trump's call on the office speakerphone, where Miss Brooke heard it. On February 16, 1990, Miss Maples and her alleged compliment became the front page headline in the New York Post, a newspaper founded by Alexander Hamilton, who had his own problems with the sensationalistic press. After that revelation, the media insanity only accelerated, and so did Donald Trump's fame, but no one knew who had really engineered the headlines. But there was a downside, a big one. The Trump children were all in Manhattan schools. You can imagine how awful the hysteria was for them. In fact, it changed the trajectory of their lives, especially for the oldest, Donald Jr. Once your father left the house and split up from your mom, you saw him less, right? Yes, part of that was my choice. I was 12. Eric was 6. It hit me differently, probably, because it was so much more visible to me. So I went to boarding school in central Pennsylvania in 8th grade, moved away from home at 13, and I was fine getting away from New York City. When you were in Pennsylvania at school, how often would you be in contact with your dad? Maybe once a week I'd call home to check in. Did he come out? He came out to drop me off when I went there the first time, and he came out at graduation. So he saw the school twice. Saw the school twice in 5 years. And how about your mom? Same. So you're doing your own thing. I'd see him vacations, Easter, Thanksgiving, you know. He's not a participation medal kind of guy. But if you're not doing great, he's going to call you out. Around sophomore year of high school, he said about my grades, "This is fine, but this isn't going to get you anywhere in life. You've got to decide what you want to do. You can do more or you can do less. It's up to you." How did you respond? That's when I actually started working my ass off academically. So he inspired you. He's not a teacher that puts you on his lap and says this is how you do something. He puts you in a situation to learn, and you rise to the occasion or you fail. Donald Trump Jr. eventually went on to graduate from the University of Pennsylvania and Wharton Business School, like his father. His sister and brother also attended boarding schools and good colleges. All three are working for their father today. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was learning about the power of television, because with the Maples thing, he was all over it. However, as he became a household name in America, he also became somewhat addicted to the attention. Adulation is a risky thing. Most human beings strongly seek acceptance, and some want constant flattery. But along with that can come confusion, alienation, and despair. In the beginning, being idolized can bring satisfaction, but gradually, constant attention wears human beings down. Add to that the reality that some will try to exploit the famous person for venal gain, and you have a powerful figurative drug, fame, that can bring grievous harm. Elvis Presley is a vivid example. Supremely talented, Presley found himself a national phenomenon in the mid-1950s, but fame overwhelmed the singer, and by age 42, he was dead, the victim of a destructive lifestyle built around prescription drugs and dietary excesses. The list of fame victims is almost endless, and it is not something to be taken casually. But Donald Trump wanted the attention that comes with mass adulation, and not only for business reasons. I saw it firsthand. As the anchor of the syndicated TV program Inside Edition for 6 years, I had to cover Donald Trump and other infotainment situations. They did not interest me much, but if we wanted to stay on the air, the Madonna stories, as I called them, had to be in the lineup. At the time, Inside Edition was a hybrid, half glitz, half news. I took the job because my contract allowed me to go all over the world to cover stories like the First Gulf War and the dismantling of the Berlin Wall. I never would have had the opportunity at another media agency. David Frost, the British personality, was the first anchor of Inside Edition, but he was quickly dispatched back to London because the ratings were abysmal. I took his place, and things turned around. The program is still on the air. Anyway, as part of my job, I covered Donald Trump, and he apparently thought I did a fair job. So, he invited me to go on a double date with him and Marla Maples and her friend from Georgia. Trump had tickets to see Paula Abdul in New Jersey. With all due respect to Abdul, a talented performer, I wasn't exactly her audience. When Donald Trump called with the invitation, I said, "Can't we go to a hockey game?" "No, we can't." So, I went on the expedition, thinking maybe I would learn something. I described the outing in my first nonfiction book, The O'Reilly Factor. We drove over in Trump's limo and were waved into a parking lot beneath the Brendan Byrne Arena. We popped out of the car and took an elevator up to a private box to watch the show. Slightly to my surprise, things were going okay. Trump and I chatted casually about the football season and his casinos. The private box was luxurious. Everyone seemed to be having a good time. There was an intermission after the first act. That's when things began to get interesting. Trump suggested that we all take a walk around the arena. What? So, Donald really wanted to walk around the arena? Oh yeah, he sure did. I remarked to him that it was probably not a good idea to take such a stroll without massive security. Like, to begin with, a battalion of full metal jacket armed, battle-tested U.S. Marines. Some rudeness might break out. No problem, Donald said. We would have Tony and Lou with us. Okay, personal bodyguards, Tony and Lou were certainly large and testy, but the odds against them were about 15,000 to 2. Odds I did not like. You can picture it, I know. Within 10 seconds, the hallway of the arena was in screaming, crowding chaos. The whole thing was nuts. Some people said nice things. Some people were mean. We all got shoved. Most of the guys focused on Marla, who was sewn into a turtleneck-type black outfit. They stared in a way that is usually seen only in prison. And then there were those who simply screamed the name Donald over and over. He loved it. I felt as if I was in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I tried to blend into the crowd, keeping as far as possible from the celebrity couple. But our stroll wasn't enough for Donald Trump. He now wanted to watch the rest of the concert from the floor. So long, luxury box. Standing on the arena floor, now surrounded by extra security guards, we watched Paula Abdul perform the rest of the concert. As she sang and danced, the crowd kept screaming, "Donald! Marla!" Along with achieving massive name recognition, Donald Trump absorbed an important strategic lesson during the hectic year of 1990. The media could be manipulated, especially television. Astutely, he understood that his life had now taken a turn into show business, and it was like no business he knew Controlled most often by ruthless autocrats, the TV industry would be Donald's future because he could handle that world and use it to benefit himself in many ways. It would take time for the TV thing to unfold, but when it did, Donald Trump was ready to parlay it into something that gave him extreme satisfaction. Incredible power. Thank you guys for joining me in this reading of The United States of Trump, written by Bill O'Reilly. In the next video, we will be reading Chapter 14, and hopefully the President will have enough time to read Chapter 14 with me. Thank you guys for watching, and God bless.